typing out a response to that email. It felt so scary and so heartbreaking. It felt much like I would imagine living in a place like what I always imagined North Korea to be like would be like.
And now we'll do a quick hits round on some crazy stories, starting with one federal worker whose TikTok meltdown is going viral. Remember, guys, the Doge department sent out an email asking federal employees to list 5 things they did in the last week, and this one woman is not taking it well, comparing her struggle to living in North Korea. Yeah, seriously, take a listen.
Today I responded to the email that we received as federal employees asking us to report 5 things that we accomplished last week. I'm not worried about my 5 things. I have plenty of things to report. I did plenty of work last week. But the feeling of just like absolute existential dread that I felt typing out a response to that email is something that I wish I could convey to everyone, because it felt like such a glimpse into the reality that they are trying to create. And it was terrifying. It felt like, you will do what I say or else. And the feeling that I felt responding to that email was such a glimpse into a possible future here, a probable future here if we don't do something about it. It felt so scary and so heartbreaking. It felt much like I would imagine living in a place like what I always imagined North Korea to be like would be like, where the energy is, yes, master, your wish is my command.
Girl, I fear you may have lost the plot. It is not dystopian for your bosses to want to know what you're up to. It is not authoritarian for it to be expected that you are able to list the things you've been doing as a productive, one would hope, employee being funded by taxpayer money. Now, is, like I've talked about before, are they really going to be able to go through millions of responses and make sure this is all true? Do they really know enough about every single department? No, but like, they need to stop acting like they're being hate crimed by being asked to write a 5 bullet point email. It's ridiculous and comes across as so incredibly, astoundingly out of touch that I can't imagine how they think this is going to be a good look for them, or how detached from the realities of the everyday life of the American public they must be to actually think this way. Because this kind of basic thing in terms of accountability and transparency at work is something most people deal with. And it's not a doomsday scenario. It's just what like basic accountability in employment looks like. Anyway, this woman posted this rant thinking it would go viral with people supporting her, but that is not exactly how it's played out. Up next, we've got a actual massive W over in the UK. I criticize them a lot, but this one is a win. The BBC reports American loses UK appeal to become legally non-binary. An American who wanted to be formally recognized as non-binary in the UK has been told by the Court of Appeal their gender identity does not legally exist in this country. Based? Ryan Castellucci previously lost a high court challenge to have their gender recorded as non-binary on a gender recognition certificate, a document which changes someone's legal sex, after moving to the UK in 2019. They had obtained legal recognition as non-binary in California in 2021 and were issued an American passport in 2022, listing their sex as X. Y'all, I can't believe we allowed that silliness to ever become law here in America. Like, you know you've lost the plot when you're outwoking the UK. But honestly, good on the Brits on this one. I will give y'all credit. You might be kind of a dystopian country in terms of not having free speech, but at least you're not going along and pretending that any human being's sex is X. That's not a thing. Non-binary is like fetch. It's simply never going to happen. And the sooner that the alphabet activists realize and accept this and move on, and maybe just instead just advocate that it's okay for males or females to be gender nonconforming, to do things that are not stereotypically masculine or feminine, and that we should just have grace for people who are a male but very feminine and maybe want to wear a little bit of makeup or have nail polish or long hair. Great. Doesn't mean they're not male. They're still biologically male, and denying that reality is just absurd. It's gaslighting. It's not legitimate or serious. And the fact that states like California are still enabling that delulu is a real problem. And you know how bad it is because even the UK is like, no, we're not doing it. Even the UK. This one is an L for America. I'm sorry. We're not sending our best, I guess, to quote Trump. All right. Up next, This Democratic governor just went full woke Mad Libs. Take a listen.
You know, you got to remember that the things that I'm speaking out about now, about, the threat to our democracy, this is not a message to win elections on. It's something people need to know. They need to know that that's happening. But, if you talk to 100 people, knock on 100 doors, and I've knocked on an awful lot of doors running for office, and you say to people, democracy is at risk, nobody knows what that looks like. They've never experienced it before.
Yeah.
And the reality is what people need to hear about is what the effects of that are. The prices at the grocery store are going up because democracy is being taken away. The impact on you in terms of your health care, 770,000 people in Illinois will lose health care as a result of what Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the Republican Congress are doing right now. It's a danger to your way of life. And that's what people need to understand. It's all about affordability. It's all about how you can, make it just a little bit easier for people every single day to live their lives. And they're taking that away from you. That is what it's like to have democracy taken away. So we need to bifurcate between educating people about democracy being taken away and talking to people about what the message ought to be about why they need to vote for Democrats.
This is a new one, that democracy is in danger because the other side won an election. And look, to be clear, I think Trump has done some anti-democratic things. I think when he threw his toddler tantrum over his loss that he refused to accept in 2020, I think that was an embarrassment and a disgrace. But this time he won fair and square, and now they get to run the federal government. That's not a threat to democracy. That is democracy in action. That said, to say that that has anything to do with grocery prices is strange. The math there is not mathing. If democracy is what affects grocery prices, then why did they go up so much under Joe Biden? Was he a threat to democracy too? Like, you're just straining credulity when you throw together random Democratic talking points and buzzwords like this in incoherent combinations as if you are filling out a Mad Libs. And I just love the absolutely Delulu MSNBC host nodding along and making like the good point, yeah, sounds. Like, God forbid you push back on sheer and utter nonsense presented to you by a Democratic politician shilling for their side. That's what journalists are supposed to do. But yeah, so profound. You really ate with that, sir. Yeah, that's not journalism, babe. That is public relations. And you are in the whoever this anchor is, you can't see who it is. They're not on screen, but whoever it is, they're in the wrong line of work, to say the absolute minimum. It's funny because this Democrat just didn't even make the obvious argument. Trump did claim that he would instantly, upon taking office, be able to lower grocery prices. I said at the time, that's not a realistic promise. Even if you are able to do this, it will take time. And so he has taken office and grocery prices have not literally decreased in like a month. So if they wanted to critique him on this, they could, but they just can't help themselves from descending into absurdity. They just can't. All right, everybody. That's it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you again to today's sponsor, Lumen. Do make sure that you comment with your thoughts. I love hearing what you guys have to say. Make sure you're subscribed and do hit that like button if you haven't yet. And with that, we'll talk again real soon.